A raw slap of spit landed just inches from Scholola's bare feet, splattering into the ochre dust. She didn't flinch. She had trained her body not to, had built a fortress inside her 12-year-old mind where such things were merely weather, unpleasant but survivable. Dirty thing. The market woman's voice was a blade, sharpened by the midday sun. I said leave here. Is this a rubbish ground? You and that madwoman best shift before I pour hot water on you. Scholola tightened her small hand on her mother's arm. Abini sat beside the gutter, lost. Her eyes, once the color of rich, wet earth, were now clouded, vacant. She mumbled to herself, her fingers tracing invisible patterns in the grime. Her wrapper had slipped, revealing a constellation of old scars on her shoulder. But Abini was in another world, one Scholola could never enter. The market pulsed around them, a chaotic symphony of shouting vendors, bleating goats, and the roar of Danfo buses. People walked past. Some slowed, their faces a mixture of disgust and pity, the empty kind, the kind that came with a shake of the head but never an outstretched hand. Scholola hated the pity more than the insults. Insults were simple. Pity was a complicated poison that made her feel small. She was only 12, but the streets of Lagos had aged her soul into something ancient and weary. She no longer cried when the other children chanted names at her. Omo were, daughter of a mad woman. Gutter girl. Cursed child. The words were stones, and she had learned to let them bounce off the armor of her indifference. There were moments, rare and fleeting as shooting stars, when the clouds in her mother's mind would part. In those brief spells of lucidity, Abini would sing old Yoruba lullabies in a voice as sweet as palm wine, her hands gently braiding Scholola's hair. My princess, she would whisper. My Irewami. But those moments were ghosts, gone before Scholola could hold on to them. Most days Abini was a stranger who screamed at puddles, believing her own reflection was a demon. Scholola had no father. Not a name, not a photograph, not even a story. Who's my daddy? She had asked once years ago, her voice small. Abini had stared at her with hollow eyes and replied, the rain. Maybe the rain brought you. That was the end of that. As the market woman's curses faded, Scholola met the eyes of a schoolgirl across the street. The girl was immaculate in her green and white uniform, her hair tied in perfect beaded braids. She held a shiny lunchbox. She stared at Scholola for a long moment, then whispered something to her friend. They both giggled and looked away. Scholola looked down at her own legs caked in dust. Her stomach twisted into a familiar, aching knot, but she ignored it. Hunger was a constant companion, a dull hum beneath the surface of everything. Still, beneath the grime and the hunger, she dreamed. She dreamed of the cool, smooth surface of a desk. She dreamed of the crisp scent of a new exercise book, of wearing a uniform that wasn't a hand-me-down, of raising her hand so fast the teacher would have to pick her. But dreams were a luxury, and survival was the only language she was fluent in. She reached into the small, grimy bag at her side and counted their earnings for the day, 1 crumpled 10 naira note and 3 dull coins. Just then a hawker shouted behind her, a frustrated cry against the city's crushing weight. Thunder, fire, poverty. Scholola didn't look back. She just held her mother a little tighter and whispered, so quietly no one could hear, Amen. Their home was the hollowed-out shell of a broken kiosk near mile 12, a forgotten relic of a failed business. Their mattress was a flattened carton from a television set, worn soft in patches from their bodies. Their blanket was the thick, humid silence of the Lagos night. If it rained, they got wet. If the harmattan winds blew, they shivered. Each morning began with Abini's screams. She would wake up clawing at the air, fighting monsters only she could see. Scholola's first task was always the same, to bring her mother back from the edge. It's me, Mommy, she'd whisper, her small arms wrapped around her mother's trembling frame. It's just me, Scholola. She would gently clean her mother, sometimes with just a rag and a bit of water from a leaky pipe, before leading her back to their begging spot. Her mother begged. Scholola watched. That was their life, a brutal repeating cycle. The streets had their own ecosystem, and Scholola was a master of navigating it. She knew which corners were controlled by the area boys who sniffed glue and would steal your earnings, and which were watched over by Kinder Market women who might spare a piece of fruit. She knew the drunk who had taken over their old kiosk and threatened her with a belt, and she knew to stay away. One evening, as she tried to find a dry place for them to sleep, she saw a boy no older than 9 light a match. The flare illuminated his hollow cheeks as he smoked something wrapped in paper. He saw her watching and offered it. "Come join us," he rasped, his voice strangely deep. "Ego make you forget say you hungry." She shook her head and walked away quickly. Her hunger was a roaring fire, but her fear of becoming like him, of letting the streets swallow her mind the way they had swallowed her mother's, was a raging inferno. She still had one treasure left, one thing they couldn't take from her, her mind. And in the deepest, most secret part of her heart, she still believed that one day, it would be her key to escape. Before Auntie Linda, there had been Auntie Bessie, a distant cousin of her mother's, a woman with a loud laugh and a kind heart, who had appeared one day like a miracle. She had taken one look at Scholola, scribbling sums in the dirt with a stick, and declared, "This child must go to school." For 3 glorious weeks, Scholola had been a student. She had worn a real uniform, even if it was second-hand. She had owned a real exercise book. The feeling of raising her hand, the thrill of the teacher calling her name and smiling at her correct answer, was a magic more powerful than any juju. She was not just smart. She was brilliant. She absorbed information like a sponge. But just as quickly as it started, it ended. Auntie Bessie's husband got a job in another city. They packed up and left. "We'll send for you," Auntie Bessie had promised, her eyes full of tears. But the call never came. The school fees went unpaid, and the gate was closed to her once more. That first taste of education had been both a gift and a curse. It had shown her a world she desperately wanted but could not have. Now she was a ghost haunting the edges of other children's education. She found a spot near the broken back fence of City Crest Academy, a private school that looked like a palace. She would crouch there for hours listening to the lessons, her lips moving silently as she repeated the English words, her fingers solving math problems in the air. One day a teacher spotted her. "Hey, who's that?" she yelled. A student turned, pointed, and said with a sneer, "It's that crazy girl again." The class erupted in laughter. The teacher stormed over. "What do you want? Who sent you?" "I just want to learn," Scholola stammered, her heart pounding. "Please, I'll just listen from outside." "Are you mad?" the teacher barked. "Go and tell your mother to pay school fees first. If you even know who your mother is." The words were a physical blow. Scholola turned and ran, the teacher's cruel laughter chasing her down the street. Still, she didn't give up. The next day she found another school, and another spot to listen. But the rejection was a constant, grinding pain. A security guard pushed her to the ground. A student threw a stone that hit her shoulder. Each time she held back her tears. That night, lying beside her sleeping mother, she looked up at the star-dusted sky. "God," she whispered, her voice cracking. "Why did you make me so smart and then lock all the doors? Did you give me this brain just to make me suffer?" There was no answer. Only the distant sound of traffic and the quiet, desperate sob of a girl who wanted more than just to survive. It started, as most good things in Lagos do, with a plate of jollof rice. Scholola was crouched beside her mother near Oshodi, her stomach a tight, painful knot. Her mother was having a silent day, just rocking back and forth, her eyes unfocused. That's when Scholola noticed the woman watching her. The woman stood behind a steaming food stand. She was fair-skinned, full-bodied, and wore a simple Ankara gown. There was something in her gaze that wasn't pity. It was something else, assessment, curiosity. Scholola looked away, embarrassed. Minutes later, the woman crossed the road and stood before her. "What's your name?" she asked gently. "Shola," she whispered. "And your mother?" The woman's eyes softened as she looked at Abini. "She's sick, isn't she?" Scholola nodded. The woman held out a covered takeaway plate. "Here, eat." Scholola hesitated. Strangers didn't give food without expecting something in return. Don't worry, the woman smiled. I'm not like the others. Her name was Auntie Linda. The rice was smoky and sweet, the meat so soft it melted in her mouth. It was the first time Scholola felt truly seen. That evening, Auntie Linda returned with soap and a bottle of clean water. As she helped Scholola wash her hands, she asked, "What's your story, child?" Scholola told her everything. The words tumbled out, the madness, the hunger, the ghost of a classroom, the dreams she kept locked away. She didn't cry, but her voice cracked with the weight of it all. Auntie Linda listened patiently. When Scholola was done, she said, "Tomorrow come to my shop. You'll help me clean. In return, I'll feed you. Deal?" Scholola nodded so hard she felt dizzy. Scholola became Auntie Linda's shadow. She swept, she washed plates. She served customers with a quiet efficiency that impressed everyone. She watched Auntie Linda run her small business with a quiet power and grace. One afternoon, Auntie Linda found her writing numbers in the sand with a stick. "Where did you learn that?" "From listening outside the school near the expressway," Scholola replied. Auntie Linda was silent for a long time. The next week she returned with a gift. A brand new exercise book and a pack of pencils. Scholola held them like they were jewels. 3 weeks later, Scholola stood inside a dusty public school classroom, her heart pounding. She wore a second-hand uniform Auntie Linda had bought for her. It was too big, but it felt like a royal gown. "Make me proud," Auntie Linda had said. "I don't have money to waste." The first day was strange. Children stared. But the moment the teacher asked a question and Scholola's hand shot up, everything changed. She was a star. She devoured lessons, memorized poems, and wrote with a speed that baffled her teachers. Life settled into a new, hopeful rhythm. School in the morning, work at the food stand in the evening. Her reward was not just the food, but the proud nod from Auntie Linda. For the first time, Scholola felt like she belonged somewhere. Then, just as her world was finally brightening, the light was extinguished. Auntie Linda came home one night holding a white envelope, tears in her eyes. "My sister in the UK finally processed my papers," she said, her voice thick with emotion. "After 7 years of waiting." Scholola smiled. "So we're traveling?" The woman's smile faltered. "No, Scholola. Just me." The room fell silent. "What about me?" Scholola whispered. Auntie Linda sighed, a sound heavy with guilt and regret. "I paid your school fees up to the end of this term. Maybe God will send someone else to help you. I've done all I can." Scholola wanted to scream, to beg, to cling to her legs and cry, "Take me with you." But she only nodded, her throat too tight for words. 3 weeks later, Auntie Linda was gone. She left without a goodbye. Scholola kept going to school until the end of the term. Then the headmistress called her into her office. "We're sorry, Scholola. Without fees, you can't remain." For days she stood outside the school gate, clutching her bag, waiting for Auntie Linda to come back. But the street remained empty. Her uniform faded. One night, a sudden downpour soaked her bag, and the ink in her precious exercise book ran until all her notes blurred into an unreadable mess. It was the symbolic death of her second dream. The gates were closed. The world had once again cast her out. She was back where she started, with only her mother and the unforgiving streets for company. Desperation forced her into a new trade. She started selling sachets of pure water. Ma'am Doris, the shop owner, gave them to her on credit with a stern warning. "If one falls, you pay." The Lagos traffic was a war zone. The sun beat down on her, her bare feet blistered on the hot asphalt. Grown women shoved her aside. Boys twice her size stole her customers. But she kept moving, her neck aching from the weight of the tray on her head. Each 5 naira sale was a tiny victory against starvation. One afternoon, a kind man dropped a 200 naira note into her tray. Before she could even whisper her thanks, a teenage boy snatched it and vanished into the market's chaos. She chased him until her lungs burned, but he was gone. She sat by the gutter and sobbed, the tears carving clean paths through the grime on her face. That night, she fed her mother the bread she bought but ate nothing herself. She was too tired, too broken. It was during this time that she discovered Queen's Crest International School. It was a fortress of wealth, with shimmering walls and guards at the gate. It was everything her life was not. But something inside her, that stubborn, unkillable spark, drew her closer. She found a small gap in the side fence, hidden by overgrown weeds. Her heart pounded as she slipped through, expecting to be caught. But no one saw her. Hiding behind flower beds and trees, she found a quiet spot behind a large mango tree. From there, she had a clear view of a junior classroom window. It became her secret sanctuary. Every day she would crouch there, a broken pencil stub in her hand, copying lessons onto scraps of scavenged paper. It was a stolen education, a whisper of a dream, but it was hers. One day, a voice behind her made her jump. "You're the girl they always chase away, right?" Scholola spun around. A girl her age stood there, her uniform spotless, her name tag sparkling. "Jessica Aju." "I didn't mean any harm," Scholola stammered, backing away. "I was just listening." Jessica tilted her head. "Why?" "Because I want to learn." Jessica's perfectly composed face crumbled slightly. "People laugh at me too," she confessed quietly. "They say I'm dumb. That my dad paid the school to keep promoting me. I don't understand anything they teach." A silence stretched between them, a bridge between two impossibly different worlds. Then Jessica smiled. "Do you want to sit?" Scholola hesitated, then slowly lowered herself to the soft grass. Jessica opened her bag and pulled out a math textbook. "Can you teach me this? I don't get it." Scholola looked at the page. "Fractions." She took the book, and as she began to explain, something shifted. The world outside the mango tree's shade melted away. Under that tree, a secret, sacred friendship was born. Scholola, with her intuitive brilliance, could break down complex ideas into simple, understandable pieces. For the first time, the fog in Jessica's mind began to clear. I get it," Jessica gasped one afternoon, after solving a problem she'd struggled with for weeks. "I finally get it." Scholola smiled, a real radiant smile. "You're not dumb. And you're not just smart," Jessica grinned. "You're amazing." They met every day. Jessica shared her lunch, jollof rice, spaghetti, meat pies. Scholola shared her knowledge. They shared stories, secrets, and laughter. Jessica learned about life on the streets, of a mother lost in her own mind. Scholola learned about the crushing loneliness of a big, empty mansion and the pressure of having a billionaire for a father. "What if my daddy finds out?" Jessica asked one day, her voice small. "What if he says we can't be friends?" "Then you'll forget me," Scholola said softly, the words tasting like ash. "That's how it works." "No," Jessica insisted. "I won't." She leaned forward, her eyes fierce. "You're not cursed like they say. You're magic. Who else can teach better than all my expensive teachers? Who else makes this place feel like home?" Scholola's eyes welled with tears, but she blinked them back. Magic. No one had ever called her that before. Their friendship became a lifeline for both of them. Jessica started bringing Scholola small gifts. A hairbrush, a notepad, a pair of slippers that Scholola kept hidden, too afraid they would be stolen. In return, Scholola gave Jessica the gift of confidence. They were two girls from two different worlds, building a universe of their own under the shade of a mango tree. Jessica's grades soared. Her teachers were stunned. Her hand was the first to go up in class. She answered questions with a newfound clarity that left everyone speechless. But Jessica didn't care about their praise. All she could think about was getting to the mango tree to tell Scholola about her latest triumph. At exactly 12:35 p.m. she was there waiting. Then she heard it, the low, powerful hum of black SUVs rolling into the school compound. The entire school froze. Teachers stopped mid-sentence. Security guards snapped to attention. Jessica's stomach plummeted. Daddy. Chief Egu never visited unannounced. He was a man whose presence was an event, a force of nature that bent the world around him. Before Jessica could run or hide, Scholola appeared, breathless and smiling. "I'm here." But Jessica wasn't smiling. Her eyes were locked on the tall, imposing figure stepping out of the lead vehicle. Chief Egu. Her father. Scholola followed her gaze and her smile vanished. Panic seized her. I have to go, she whispered, but it was too late. Jessica. The deep voice echoed across the lawn. Chief Egu walked toward them, his eyes sharp and questioning. What are you doing out here? He asked, his gaze falling on the girl beside his daughter, a ragged, barefoot child. Who is this? Scholola's entire body trembled. Jessica stepped in front of her, a tiny, defiant shield. This is Scholola. She's my friend. She's the one who teaches me. The billionaire's eyes widened in disbelief. He looked from his daughter to the terrified street girl and back again. The silence was heavy, suffocating. Who are your parents, child? He asked, his voice dangerously quiet. I don't know my father, sir, Scholola whispered, her eyes on the ground. My mother, she begs by the roadside. People call her mad. Chief Egu's face was an unreadable mask. He watched his daughter take Scholola's hand, holding onto it like a lifeline. He saw the fierce loyalty in Jessica's eyes, and the genuine fear in Scholola's. For the first time, the powerful billionaire seemed at a loss. He had expected to find his daughter slacking off. Instead, he had stumbled upon a secret that was changing her life. His gaze softened almost imperceptibly. I'm not here to hurt you, he said to Scholola, his voice gentler now. Take me to your mother. The drive in the air-conditioned SUV was surreal. The scent of leather filled Scholola's nostrils as she directed the driver through the chaotic, dusty streets she called home. The convoy of black cars was an alien presence here, parting the crowds like a ship through water. She pointed a trembling finger. She's there. A beanie sat on the sidewalk, barefoot, rocking and laughing at nothing. Chief Egu stepped out of the car, his expensive leather sandals settling in the dust. He walked toward the woman and crouched beside her. Madam, he said softly. A beanie looked up, her eyes unfocused. Did you bring the sky? I left my wings in your car. Tears finally streamed down Scholola's face. Chief Egu stood up, his face set with a powerful resolve. I'm going to help her, he said quietly, turning to Scholola. She needs proper care. He turned to his assistant and gave a series of rapid, decisive orders. Get Dr. Aisha on the line. Psychiatric unit. Full treatment, no delays. Then he turned back to Scholola, whose heart was racing. He knelt before her, placing a firm, warm hand on her shoulder. He looked her directly in the eyes, and the world seemed to stop. From today, he said, his voice thick with a strange new emotion. You are not a homeless girl. You have a father now. Scholola didn't believe it at first. Not as she watched her mother being gently lifted into a clean white ambulance. Not as the car pulled away from the dirty street that had been her entire world. It had to be a dream. That evening, in a bathroom larger than the kiosk she used to sleep in, she took her first proper bath in years. The warm water felt like a miracle. Jessica gave her a set of soft pajamas, and a housemaid gently combed the tangles from her hair. When Chief Egu introduced her to the staff, this is Scholola. She will be staying with us. Treat her as you would my own daughter. A stunned silence fell over the house, but his tone left no room for questions. The next morning, Scholola stood in front of a full-length mirror, wearing a brand-new crisp Queen's Crest uniform. She could hardly recognize the clean, bright-eyed girl staring back at her. You look just like me. Jessica clapped with delight. I feel like I'm dreaming, Scholola whispered. You're not, Jessica said, taking her hand. My daddy said it's real. You belong here now. That day, they walked into Queen's Crest together. Matching uniforms, matching bags. Gasps and whispers followed them down the hall. Wasn't that the street girl who used to hide behind the fence? Yes, it was. But today she walked through the front gate as a student, with her sister by her side. In the classroom, Scholola was unleashed. Her mind, so long starved and suppressed, was a brilliant fire. She didn't just answer questions. She asked new ones, challenging her teachers and inspiring her classmates. By the end of the first week, the teachers were holding meetings about her. She's not just smart, the principal said with a smile. She's exceptional. She earned respect not because of her powerful new father, but because of her own incredible mind. Chief Egu kept his promise. Scholola visited her mother every week at the private psychiatric facility. At first, Abini didn't recognize her, lost in her world of shadows. But the doctors were kind, the medication began to work, and slowly the clouds started to part. On the 5th visit, Abini looked up at Scholola, her eyes clearer than they had been in years. She reached out a trembling hand and touched her daughter's cheek. You look like the sky," she whispered. Scholola burst into tears of joy. The healing had begun. A year later, the mango tree in the garden of the Egu mansion was neatly trimmed, surrounded by clean tiles and benches. Scholola sat there with Jessica, their heads bent over a textbook, quizzing each other for an upcoming exam. Scholola was at the top of her class. Jessica, no longer believing she was dumb, was a confident, happy student. Abini was stable, living in a peaceful care facility, and her lucid moments were growing longer and more frequent. Chief Egu often watched them from his study window. He had thought he was performing an act of charity that day. He followed his daughter to the mango tree. He had thought he was saving a desperate child. But now he knew the truth. In giving Scholola a future, he had given his own daughter back her confidence. In giving a forgotten girl a family, he had made his own family whole. Scholola looked up from her book and smiled, a smile so full of light and promise it could brighten the darkest corner of the world. The girl the world had called worthless had become a walking miracle, a living testament to the fact that greatness isn't about where you come from. It's about what you become when someone finally takes the time to see you. The future had finally opened its doors, and she had walked through them, head held high, ready for the sunlight. Do not forget to subscribe, share, and comment.